Hey, welcome! Today, we are going to tackle one of the most common and honestly one of the most dangerous phrases you hear in business. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. It sounds like simple common sense, right? But when we're talking about software, that mindset can be quietly draining your bank account. So let's dig in and find out the true cost of not fixing it.
Yeah, let's start right there. It's a fair question after all. Your software, it seems to be working just fine, your customers are using it, so why on earth would you spend a bunch of money and time on something that, on the surface, looks perfectly okay? It's a question a lot of us have probably heard or maybe even asked, and it seems pretty reasonable at first glance.
Because it turns out, the answer has some absolutely massive financial consequences. According to the Consortium for Information and Software Quality, poor software quality, which is exactly what happens when we wait for things to break, costs the U.S. economy an estimated $2.08 trillion. Yeah, that's trillion with a T. All of a sudden, that simple little question feels a whole lot heavier, doesn't it?
The solution here is a strategy called Preventative Maintenance, or PM for short. The best way to think about it is like this. It's the difference between going for a routine annual physical versus being rushed into emergency surgery. See, it's not about fixing bugs that have already popped up. It's about proactively keeping your software healthy, so those big emergencies never even happen in the first place.
So what happens when we just ignore all this? Well, operating in that reactive, break-fix mode doesn't actually save you any money. Instead, what it does is it allows two silent, really dangerous threats to grow completely unchecked right below the surface.
So threat number one is something called technical debt. And honestly, the best way to wrap your head around it is to think of it like taking out a high-interest loan. You get a short-term win, like maybe rushing a new feature out the door. But every single day you put off repaying that loan by cleaning up the code, the interest just compounds. It gets worse and worse, making future work slower, way more expensive, and much more likely to break.
And we're not talking about some small inconvenience here. A pretty stunning report from Stripe found that developers spend, on average, 42% of their entire work week just wrestling with bad code and technical debt. I mean, just imagine that. Nearly half of the time for your most valuable, most innovative people is spent just untangling old messes instead of building your company's future.
And all that lost time, it has a global price tag. That 42% translates to $85 billion in lost opportunity costs worldwide. Every single year. That's the cost of all the innovation that just never happens because teams are totally bogged down dealing with the past. And this isn't just a tech problem. This debt shows up in very real, very painful ways all across your business. It means your new features take way longer to launch. It means more bugs and more crashes that frustrate your customers. And it means your best engineers get totally burned out and end up leaving. These are the tangible business pains that come from this.
All of that technical debt just keeps piling up and piling up, until eventually you hit a breaking point. And this is the second major threat. It's the one that everybody sees. Unplanned downtime. When your system goes down, the entire business just grinds to a halt.
And the cost is immediate, and it is severe. Across all industries, the average cost of downtime for a large organization is now a staggering $9,000 per minute. Just let that sink in for a second. By the time this short explainer is over, a single outage could have cost a company $45,000. And that cost? It varies wildly depending on what industry you're in. If you're in finance, a single hour of downtime can cost you nearly $6.5 million. Even in retail, it's over $1 million an hour. Go ahead and find your industry on this chart. The numbers are a pretty powerful wake-up call.
But the damage goes so much deeper than just that initial financial hit. See, downtime creates this huge ripple effect. Almost half of the impact is just lost productivity across the company. Another 41% is damage to your brand's reputation. That's trust that is incredibly hard to win back. And nearly a third of companies say they lose customers directly because of an outage.
Okay, that was a lot of bad news, I know. But here's the good news. Shifting from a reactive approach to a proactive one isn't about adding a new cost. It's about making a really smart, high-return investment in the stability and the future of your business. And the financial case for this? It is crystal clear. Industry data shows that waiting for something to break and then fixing it, that whole reactive approach, costs 3 to 5 times more over the life of an asset than just planning to maintain it from the very beginning. So what kind of return are we talking about here? Well,
A landmark study by Jones Lang LaSalle found that a well-implemented preventative maintenance program delivers an average return on investment of 545%. Let me say that again. 545%. That is not a typo.
How is that even possible? Well, it's a multiplier effect. You're not just avoiding big, scary emergency repair bills. You're completely eliminating those catastrophic costs of downtime. You're extending the life of your software, pushing off expensive rewrites, and, most importantly, you are unlocking that 42% of developer time, redirecting it from just firefighting to actual innovation. That is the strategic payoff. Let's look at the hard data. Research from a company called CodeScene actually quantified the difference between a well-maintained, healthy code base and a neglected one. Development in healthy code is twice as fast, it has 15 times fewer bugs, and projects have 9 times less uncertainty in their timelines. I mean, these are massive, game-changing differences.
So what do those numbers actually mean for your business leaders? Well, for a head of sales, it means you're getting new features you can sell twice as fast as your competition. For a marketing director, it means you're protecting the brand from the damage of a buggy, frustrating product. And for a CFO, it means your budgets and your forecasts just became dramatically more reliable.
Okay, so the case is pretty clear. The big question now is, how do you actually do this? Let's get into the final, actionable part of our explainer.
A really strong PM program is built on 4 core activities. The one at the center is called code refactoring, and that's just the disciplined process of cleaning up and restructuring your code to pay down that technical debt. Think of it like finally organizing a super messy closet. Everything is still there, but now it's easy to find things and to add new stuff. And this is all supported by keeping documentation up to date, optimizing performance, and being proactive about security.
Now for the million-dollar question. How do you budget for this? A really solid rule of thumb that's used all across the software industry is to set aside between 15 and 25% of the initial development cost for your annual maintenance. This isn't a new cost, it's a planned investment to avoid those much larger, totally unpredictable costs that come with emergencies.
And look, you don't need some massive, complicated overhaul to get started. You can kick off a really powerful conversation today with just 2 simple questions for your technology leaders. First, what's our current level of technical debt? And second, what percentage of our team's time is spent on unplanned work versus building new things? Trust me, the answers will be eye-opening. Ultimately, it all boils down to this. Proactive care isn't just an item on an IT checklist. It is a fundamental business strategy. By shifting your mindset from reactive to proactive, you stop treating your software like it's a ticking time bomb and you start treating it like what it should be, your single most powerful competitive advantage.